10 years ago, I set out into Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTubing, or as some would call it, yogurt tubing, with merely a deck, and wait, I didn't actually have any cards, with a set of Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro deck files and a dream. A dream to rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! cards! And then I didn't even rank them. They weren't in order. Half-assing it from day one, baby. While the top 10 era of the channel quickly ran its course, it remains to me an artifact of simpler times, both on YouTube and in my life putting off studies to talk about card games on the internet. I failed on exam and counseling skills to bring you top 10 winged beast monsters. The reason you don't get as many uploads anymore is because I finished college, so I don't have any more exams left to fail. It's so much easier to motivate yourself to do unimportant things when doing important things, rather than other unimportant things. Oh my god. After the fittingly 10th top 10 video, the channel took its first out of the many pivots to come, revisiting the idea for its first anniversary, as well as a quick but sincere April Fool special. Why am I talking about this in third person? It's my channel. And then the handsome Rata got a bright idea. To round out this decade, why not return to the roots and simply talk about some dogshit cards? And that's precisely the subject of this anniversary special. Welcome to the Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! 10th Anniversary Top 10 Worst Archetype Support Cards Extravaganza. Now, the standards for what constitutes a horrible support card have shifted over the years, both in the game itself as well as in my personal assessment. And so, the main factor I took into consideration for this list is context. While the vast majority of the old top 10s absolutely consisted of total garbage, a lot of it was either basic adaptations of anime cards, which tend to be clunky or overly specific for the duel writer's convenience, or just generic support, which while objectively useless within the archetype, simply shares its theming without ever intending to be a valuable asset. Today I'm gonna try and stray away from these boring, obvious picks, and talk about cards from the past decade that I deem to have no reason to be as bad as they are, and have not talked about already. Also, in between each spot, you will be graced by the highlights of some sweet channel fan art submitted by the lovely people who participated in the Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Art contest, with the remaining submissions being in the description. Alright, that's it. I mean, we're ready, like there's nothing left to say. Let's go, baby, let's do this! I'm ready, dude! Let's rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! Number 10. One day, the Abel-Star the Black Witch was minding her own fucking business when suddenly, goblins! And then there were no more goblins, the end. But while they existed, goblin bikers enjoyed swarming the field, stealing Xyz materials, and making extra deck monsters with ranks in multiples of 3. Due to their very specific plundering playstyle, goblin bikers saw a bit of prominence against Ryziels, who very much like having their Xyz materials, so you could see how this would be a problem. While they quickly came and went, a part of the deck that never hit the field in the first place was Goblin Biker Troika Griare. It's a rank 3 light warrior with 1700 attack and 0 defense, requires 2 or more level 3 monsters, and while 3 or more Xyz materials are attached to monsters in the field, goblin monsters you control can attack directly. Once per turn, if a monster is normal or special summoned while this card is in the monster zone except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters, detach one material from a monster on either field, and if you do, change the targeted monster's battle position. Once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can detach one material from a monster on either field, and if you do, negate that attack. Doing away with vicious fanged animals in favor of a kindly old turtle is really a stylistic flourish here, you know? Perfectly encapsulates the effect. The direct attacking could be cute with all the swarming going on, but it's hardly anything relevant to the deck's playstyle, unless you really miss Dustons and wanna relive the glory days of Goblin King OTK. Along with that, both the battle position change and the attack negation effects are so quaint that it's funny. Even in the context of using them to trigger Big Gabonga on the opponent's turn, the rank 3 and 6 pools already have way better options for it. Maybe if some Goblin Bikers had effects that go off on position change, or the deck was primarily battle focused, you could make an argument for running this, but neither of those things are true. And seeing how this was barely a relevant archetype in a lore series that's long been wrapped up nice and tight, I don't think that's about to change. It's a filler card in a filler archetype. However, I do like turtles.
Don't worry, little turt. I'll protect you from Mario.
Number 9. When they're not defining the meta, a lot of TCG archetypes follow a certain trend. Interesting first wave that shows a good bit of potential if fully realized, followed by a support wave that could roughly be described as Eldritch. A TCG deck being consistent in its badness is actually a pleasant surprise since it's so prevalent for them to move on from an incomplete but promising playstyle with a total swerve into clunky garbage with no cohesion that it almost seems mandated. Anyway, you guys ever hear about Destina? It's a weird, mysterious looking aqua archetype based around turning your opponent's cards face down and then I don't know, you figure it out. Tistina started out as a weirdly slow and self-sabotaging deck that at least had some cool ideas and rank 10 potential with their boss monsters. However, instead of improving their speed and versatility, the archetype's second wave took a confusing route best represented by Tainted of the Tistina. It's a level 5 Dark Aqua with 2000 attack and 0 defense, and you can tribute summon this card face up by tributing one face down monster your opponent controls. This card's level becomes 10 if it was normal summoned or set. If this card is sent to the graveyard except from the field, you can target one Tistina monster you control. This turn it can make a second attack during each battle phase, also you can only attack with one monster. The reason why I find this card so offensively stupid is that it only does one thing, which the archetype was not doing beforehand, and does it badly. You see, without addressing any of Tistina's actual problems, the support took it into a weird OTK direction, using the deck's gimmicks as a stepping stone, intending you to first go through the effort of summoning Crystal God and do some mass flipping, normal summon this by kaijuing one of the face downs, overlay them into their new rank 10 that wipes the rest of them, detach Tainted for Divinity's effect that gives it 2000 more attack, and then use Tainted's floating effect to let it swing twice and hit for game. Man, the 10 card Ojama King Unstable Evolution OTK's got competition! This is just ass. It would have been considered mediocre 10 years ago, let alone today. If any step of this incredibly inconsistent process runs into any form of interruption, your entire turn becomes tainted and you just have to pass in embarrassment. As is tradition, this deck received a single piece of OCG support that salvages whatever it can, and while it's not exactly Spiral Double Helix, Miasma Dragon offers enough easy combo potential to completely sideline this unwieldy excuse for a win condition. You might still run stuff from the second wave in a modern Tistina deck, but you definitely won't have to taint your deck with this. My taint itches. Number 8. If you have a lack of experience with the deck, you might assume that Duel Avatar is just another forgettable, underpowered, linear, pack filler warrior archetype. And you'd be 100% correct. Their playstyle focuses on spawning a shit ton of tokens and then making them into some unremarkable fusions, which get slightly powered up if you use their two main deck monsters. These are also the main materials for their incredibly demanding higher level fusions, of which the most impressive is just a guy who's a giant Runade on legs. Or feet. They also flirt a little bit with self-popping for extension, but don't get it twisted, these were not Unchained nor Fire Kings. Exploding! And then, 3 years later, a surprise drop of a lonely new piece of support. What the fuck is Duel Avatar? Are those your Senjus? Duel Avatar Manifested Aun is a level 4 light warrior fusion with 0 attack and defense, requires 2 Duel Avatar monsters, and this card gains the following effects based on the original names of the materials used for its fusion summon. With Duel Avatar Empowered Kongyo, the attack of your battling Duel Avatar monsters becomes 3000 during damage calculation only, and Duel Avatar Empowered Mitsujaku, once per opponent's turn, you can target one card on the field, banish it. If this fusion summoned card is destroyed, you can special summon one Duel Avatar Fists Yuhi and one Dual Avatar Feet Kokoku from your deck, and if you do, they cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn. These effects probably sound fine to those less jaded, but with the amount of effort it takes to put out both of the high-level fusions in this deck, fusing them away into this stupid mess is the last thing you should be doing. You'd first need to rebuild your field for the attack boost to matter, which you'd most likely be doing with tokens, but it's not like this is a consistent OTK setup, or anything at all. The targeted banish is neat, but it's a pretty limp replacement for a monster that came with protection, back row bouncing, and interruption. To reiterate, these two are not handed out like candy. You need to work to put them on the field, so something that replaces them better be worth the effort, which these effects absolutely aren't. The only thing worth salvaging here is the floating, which makes the card a decent target for instant fusion, as it can be subsequently popped for one of their extenders. However, it then makes the summoned monsters indestructible, while one of them needs to pop the other to search. Did I forget how this deck worked? There's still a bit of synergy here with triggering Kokoku's search, but the card just feels like a designated mediocre target for instant fusion, with the rest of the effect being put there as a little treat for insane people. Also, the art sucks because it's just the tokens wearing pants, and I like my tokens butt-ass naked.
We'll be right back to Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s on Disney XD.
Yeah, cause it's number 7. In case you were exclusively seeing red and feeling ringing in your ears whenever true King of all calamities would hit the field, it's entirely reasonable that you might have missed what the opponent even used to make the card. And unless they were cool enough to be playing Moisture Creature Turbo, the engine in question was most likely Virtual World, a vibrant little archetype of Wind Psychics and Earth Worms. They're mainly based on banishment, and similarly to an earlier deck, Extra Deck plays in multiples of 3. Coincidence? Well, actually, yes. They were also particularly centered around their spell and trap lineup of so-called gates. Since their launch in 2020, the deck has had a fair bit of relevance, mostly due to their ability to consistently shit out VFD or Viscous Fudge Disaster in the TCG, but their own extra deck lineup had a good bit of utility as well. Specifically, with the decks theming in Chinese mythology, their Xyz monsters were themed around the 4 auspicious beasts, that is, the Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, and White Tiger. White Tiger. White Tiger. Where did you put him? More like suspicious beasts. Inexplicably, it took about 3 years for this group to get completed, and when it finally did, opinions were mixed. Virtual World Tiger Fufu is a rank 9 Earthworm with 2600 attack and 2800 defense, requires 2 or more level 9 monsters, and it gains the following effects based on the number of Virtual World Gate cards you control. 2 or more, this card can attack directly, and 4, this card is unaffected by activated card effects except Virtual World cards. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 effect monster you control and 1 effect monster on the field with a different type and attribute from it, negate their effects until the end of this turn. Okay, I lied. The opinions weren't mixed. They were perplexed. For a deck that used to make the most out of its ability to produce multiple level 9s, the lack of a rank 9 Xyz within the archetype felt like a bit of missed potential, especially after the banning of the very friendly dragon. Having the card finally unveiled after the archetype lost most of its steam put a lot of expectations on it, which were then quickly dashed for several reasons. For one, the direct attack effect is just embarrassing. What are we playing here, War Rocks? The only thing in the archetype it has any interaction with is probably under the card as an Xyz material. The second effect would be okay if it wasn't for the fact that you very rarely have 4 gates in the back row, and even if you did, protection on a single monster is the last thing you need at that moment. You'd think you could salvage this with some of that quick negation, but it has the most specific targeting condition on the planet for no reason other than playing in with the archetype's gimmick of differing card types, along with only working for monsters on the field and negating your own. The gates already offer interruption and negation, which while not quick, is much more conducive to the deck's playstyle than wasting your resources on Tiger Poo-Poo. Additionally, the monster never received a corresponding gate like the rest of the Xyz, so I think even Konami would most rather pretend this one never happened. They can perform a quintillion calculations per second, but none of them can ever explain what went wrong here. Fight the power! Number 6. To say that Sky Strikers are not starved for support would imply that they were ever hungry in the first place. While I do enjoy this archetype's jet-themed Mecha Musume aesthetics, I don't like its playstyle enough to care for its aggressive omnipresence in the meta, nor the marketing that persisted way past the deck's tier 1 relevance, culminating with the debut storylines of the OCG Stories manga and Chronicles web show, an alt art for Rhoda, as well as the cover of the most comprehensive Yu-Gi-Oh card art book ever being populated by a single solitary monochrome render of Rei. Other decks exist! But, as it tends to be the case with archetypes composed of more than 30 cards, not all of them can be winners. Specifically, the manga was accompanied by a decent chunk of support inspired by its characters and events, so while these are technically an adaptation of existing material, none of this material was actual cards. Therefore, Konami had free reign to make them as good or bad as they wanted, and they want it bad. Aileron is a level 1 wind machine with 0 attack and defense and is always treated as a Sky Striker card. You keep telling yourself that, buddy. A Sky Striker race monster equipped with this card gains 400 attack. You can only use one of the following effects of Aileron per turn and only once that turn. During either player's main phase, you can target one Sky Striker ace monster you control, equip this card from your hand or field to it. If this card on the field is destroyed, you can send one Sky Striker spell from your deck to the graveyard. Plain and simple, this card was sent out to die with one string of text. The one effect per turn clause turns this from a worse version of Engage into a worse version of Lightning Blade. I know the attack boost is there as consolation since the card has to pretend to be a real equip, but 400? Ooh, even Prevent Rat is trembling in fear. The spell dump on floating is obviously meant to trigger with making Rei into a link, which again would almost be acceptable if you didn't have to wait until the opponent's turn to do something Foolish Burial Goods does on its own. Hell, even just treating himself as a spell in the grave so you can retrieve and loop him would have been kinda neat, but there's just nothing to work with here. It's a basic effect gimped into oblivion. Also, what the hell is the point of letting you activate this during either player's main phase? What are you even interrupting with this? Hey man, stop the combo. Why, you got Ash? Nah, look at my boy. Alright, keep going. Number 5. Ancient gears are mainly known for three things: killing you and killing you and killing you! Because of this, the archetype tends to abstain from control effects, as anything deviating from the OTK strategy would be pussy behavior, Nanone. Then again, a bit of negation never hurt anyone, other than maybe Effects Georg who activates 10,000 effects a day. So last year, as was decreed because I dared to make a joke about not needing more Ancient Gear Dragons, we were supplied with Ancient Gear Dragon. Hey Konami, I don't want Dark Scorpion Chandler the Strangler. Don't print this. Please. It's a level 5 with 500 attack and 2500 defense and cannot be special summoned. If you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are Earth Machine monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. When your opponent activates a spell or trap card or effect during either player's turn, you can send to the graveyard one machine monster from your hand or face-up field, or one Ancient Gear Golem from your deck, negate that effect. You can only use this effect of Ancient Gear Dragon once per turn. Alright, I know Konami thinks the cannot be special summoned clause is important to Ancient Gear's identity, but it's time to stop being so fucking ancient. Yes, I know they've been ignoring this condition left and right with the new support, and most of their recent monsters don't have it in the first place, but really, it only makes Dragon that much more baffling. Was this single piece of non-destruction back row negation, mind you in an archetype that already has solid protection from back row, considered so busted that they had to bring back the old nerfing method for tradition? Even on your first turn, and taking the dumping cost as a benefit, there are way better setup tools to summon with Catapult or Tanker, because negating one Imperm is hardly gonna save you if you're being this desperate. The stats are also a joke, because the 500 attack is there solely for a pointless search with box. I don't care that he has 2500 defense. Unless it's Howitzer, I'm not playing goddamn Ancient Gears to summon shit in defense position. Dragon is so bad, it's literally beaten out by Golem with no limbs. Number 4. Now, you might not believe this, but did you know that the past 10 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually included a few more dragons? What? Hi. I hate Odd Eyes. They're odd and ugly and stupid, and looking at Performapals gives me liver failure. Due to the anime and manga, all subgroups of the archetype have had a lot of worthless shit printed for them, but as I stated earlier, I'm mainly curious about the game original outliers. And what stuck out to me in that regard was Odd Eyes Wizard Dragon. It's a level 7 Dark Dragon with 2500 attack and defense, and if this card is in your hand, you can tribute one Dark Monster, send one Odd Eyes Dragon from your hand, deck or face-up field to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. If this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to your graveyard, you can special summon one Odd Eyes monster from your deck or graveyard, except Odd Eyes Wizard Dragon, then you can add one Spiral Flame Strike from your deck to your hand. Keen-eyed Odd Eyes fans might notice that this monster is basically a dark variant of Odd Eyes Saber Dragon. This was also not a great card, but considering it came out in a 2015 starter deck, it was a lot more excusable. For comparison, Wizard came out in late 2019, way after Odd Eyes support had dried out, in the same duelist pack as this peculiar little card named Magician's Souls! So what exactly is so bad about it? I mean, tribute one Dark Monster and dump an Odd Eyes for a decent body which also floats into an Odd Eyes and their signature attack spell? Doesn't sound awful. But if you take a closer look at that summoning condition, you might notice it doesn't dump Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon nor an Odd Eyes Dragon monster, it specifically dumps the Odd Eyes Missing Link. This is a monster that existed for an entire half an episode before it became permanently transformed into the Pendulum variant, an act which is still heavily scrutinized by judges worldwide. Very few people remember this thing even exists, even fewer have actively ran it in a deck, and Wizard Dragon absolutely did nothing to change that. It's pack filler excused as a callback to a starter deck boss monster, and I will only forgive it if they keep up the bit and start printing one for each attribute up until 2040, making them worse with each one. But until then, this is not a wizard, it's a scam artist. Number 3. I'm sorry guys, but this video could have never contained only one TCG exclusive, and in this spot we have every single War Rock! Just kidding. Being one of the worst decks ever printed, period, kinda disqualifies them from even being on here because the bar for their support is in hell in the first place. Instead, we're revisiting the dreaded second wave trend with the ever so regrettable Bee Troopers. What began as a basic but cool insect archetype based around swarming was followed up in the next set by a wave focusing more on tokens and giant cumbersome boss monsters. I've debated whether to highlight one of the last latter, as its existence only makes future insect decks more susceptible to super poly board wipes, but instead settled on a trap card as this video is kinda lacking in terms of back row. B-Trooper Squad is a normal trap that lets you tribute one non-token insect monster to special summon up to one B-Trooper token, which is a level 3 Earth insect with 1000 attack and defense, for every 1000 original attack of the attributed monster. You can only activate B-Trooper Squad once per turn. Neat. Multiplication of Ants came out in 2003. It's a spell, and it tributes any insect to summon 2 tokens. And it has an ant with a big ol' smile. No, there aren't really any substantial benefits this gives to B-Troopers, let alone generic insects. It's ungodly slow, doesn't trigger shit, and if you're gonna use a B-Trooper search on a piece of back row, it's gonna be the counter trap. What else do you say, but the squad is not on fleek, fam? Is what they would say in the last acceptable year for this card to release. Can we move on to the next? Number 2! So I know I said I'm straying away from boring, direct adaptations of bad anime and manga cards, as tempting as it was at points, but what about adaptations that aren't boring? The ones that take an utterly bland, unimpressive card from 13 years ago and decide to make it worse. Infernity Queen is a level 3 Dark Fiend with 300 attack and 900 defense and says, if you have no cards in your hand and this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one Dark Monster from your graveyard, then target one Dark Monster you control, it can attack directly this turn. You can only use this effect of Infernity Queen once per turn. For reference, the manga card did not require you to banish a monster, nor was it limited to dark attributes. Worthless direct attack effects seem to be an ongoing theme with this list, and this one is especially nasty, seeing how attacking is about the last thing in Infernity game plan. Like, yeah, they do it, but mostly just out of obligation.
Call me if you need a search.
The cost is particularly annoying because the deck had 0 banish retrieval up until a few years ago, and if you're in the TCG, using said banish retrieval is essentially a humiliation ritual. I activate Return of the Reaper and special summon.
No. We're not in Japan. Read the card's name.
This
what? There's more words.
this creepy little punk?
That's right. That's the card you played. Now swing for game. You creepy little punk bitch.
To make sure the situation doesn't happen, don't run Infernity Queen. Number 1. Whew, big number, that 1. If we're going backwards at least. I've debated a lot on this one. Many a sleepless night was spent in front of a notepad document, scrolling Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck for inspiration and trying to remember if you still only have one normal summon per turn or if they changed that. And then it hit me. Forget context, forget synergy, forget card design. The worst support of the past decade is tilting entrainment. What do you mean you made a new train, but as a level 8 synchro that supports pendulums? Do you know how many stations removed that is from what qualifies as a terrain in this game? I don't know what track you're trying to ride here, but I'm not boarding. And that's it, ladies and metal gen, railbikes and railcars. Thank you for watching this video and Number 0. Being a protagonist archetype, Utopia has received copious amounts of support which gradually increased its competence over the years. However, it being exclusive to the Extra deck has made said support a bit tricky to wade through, having to account for Utopia variants, Zexal weapons, generic Xyz and number support, and of course, the Gaga Dodo Rata Skibidi Trololo bunch. When you consider the fact that the anime ended in 2014, that leaves us with even more than a decade of mostly game original cards, but while the majority of them served to flesh out Utopia's playstyle, it wasn't all hope left and right. On a completely unrelated note, signature move cards, themed around existing monsters' attacks from the show, tend to range from archetypal staples, to cool flair, to nauseatingly unusable. Anyway, did you know that a guy that scams you in Master Duel is actually a real card? Oh great, I got a Dragon Ruler of fuckers. Number F0, Utopic Future Slash, is a rank 0, except just kidding, it's actually rank 1, no fun allowed, with 0 attack and defense, requires 2 Xyz monsters with the same rank, except numbers as materials, but you can also summon it by using a Utopia monster, or number F0 Utopic Future you control as material. Transfer its materials to this card. Gains 500 attack for each number Xyz monster in the graveyards. Cannot be destroyed by battle, and once per turn, you can detach one material from this card. This card can make a second attack attack during each battle phase this turn. If we're splitting hairs, this is technically an anime card, as it represents the OG utopic future being affected by the trap card Memories of Courage. It makes Utopia remember King Ramses asking for the slab and it goes apeshit and kills Astro. But while it may have made sense to adapt an awful situational trap by trimming a lot of the conditions away and tweaking it into a monster that you can summon for free atop another one, the end result is dystopian. Demanding you don't use numbers for the summon was thematically fine for the original, but this guy gets powered up by numbers in the graveyards. Unless you were playing Megazaborg Utopia, in which case holy shit you must be bored with this game, the highest attack you're getting out of this without extensive setup is like 2500 on a good day, and that's if you're detaching the original for the effect. The effect that lets you swing twice during each battle phase. Holy crap, each battle phase? Time to bust out weather report! Oh damn! Oh damn! If you could somehow summon this right after attacking and stealing a monster with the original F-Zero, while having enough setup for a decent attack value and you could detach during the battle phase, then maybe it could potentially be a situational dual ender. But not only is none of this the case, which makes sitting on the OG or any other Utopia a way better option, but there have also been two astronomically better F-Zero upgrades since that retroactively make this card less useful than a page marker, because Buku is way better for that. And ultimately, the context of this card being the celebration of the highest rated Zexal duel in a Shueisha fan poll just makes it lamer. Not that the other cards were meta usurpers or anything, but they were either just mediocre support or fun anime references, while this one is a total wet fart. Useless in function, worthless for flair. I give it an F and a 0. Thank you, ladies in mental gen, railbikes and railcars, for tuning into this 10th anniversary special. To anyone who stuck around for even half that time, this probably feels surreal, but honestly, to me this whole thing just came and went as a pleasant Thursday. Or I guess several Thursdays stretched over a few weeks. So I thought the video should be fittingly chill. Still, my immense thanks to all of you for supporting me all these years, and for having the patience of a lightstorm with my upload times. Really sorry this year has been a total drought, but we've still got a couple of months to salvage it, who knows. Also, massive thanks to everyone who submitted art for this video, as each new email was like opening a Christmas present that was either a cool robot or a pipe bomb. As said previously, you can check it all out in the description link, and as usual, you can watch me stream on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, or support me on Patreon. Now you'll have to excuse me, as I have to get back to yogurt tubing. That's good. That's really good. You gotta eat Greek. They got all the probiotics. Think I'm gonna have another. God damn. That's real nice. And the quarter century rarity really gives it a good kick, you know? Konami knocked it out of the park with this one. Oh my god. Fuck.